In 1816, French inventor Nicephore Niepce was experimenting with the very beginning of photography. Through a method called the pinhole camera, he was able to produce a small hole at the front of a camera, which was able to produce a flipped and colored image on the other side of the camera. Now, when he developed this method, the image was like a temporary tattoo, doomed to fade in about an hour. But because of this invention, a whole new world of artistic expression came about, not only in photography, but after years of motionless images tantalizing the masses with potential, a man named Louis Le Prince created the first motion picture with classics like Man Walking Around the Corner and Traffic Crossing Leeds Bridge. Clearly, very simple and short motion pictures, but it was 1887, and nothing like this was ever done. Now, little videos like this weren't ever screened and never had a story to them until the Lumiere brothers came into the picture. With tiny films that would completely rely on one shot and perfect framing for composition. This would then snowball into films such as The Great Train Robbery, which was able to show an entire robbery of a train, although very minimalistic in its editing form and still relying heavily on the way that a camera is placed, the composition. It was a great stride in the direction of what films are now. And a lot of films would rely on grandiose actions that would be very exciting and comedic when done right. Big names like Charlie Chaplin, Harold Lloyd, and Buster Keaton ruled the silver screen through these antics. But the film was young, and it wasn't until Sergei Einstein's philosophy behind editing montages to tell inaudible visual stories that this medium truly got to become what it is. One doesn't have to look further than Battleship Potemkin, made in 1925, which created a flurry of new types of films. Specifically, in that movie, there's a scene of people running away from Bolshevik armies downstairs. And it's a very iconic scene that has been parodied many times over. If you ever remember a baby carriage falling down stone steps, it comes from this movie. But during that entire scene, not a word is spoken, but the viewer is clearly able to see people panicking, fleeing, and it shows soldiers shooting at them, and you get this entire story without any title card that had an explanation, without any talking whatsoever. It was truly incredible, and this just snowballed. Deeply disturbing movies such as Un Chien Andalou, which was made in 1929 and shows horrific images of a woman's eye being cut open when really it was edited together with a cow, or ants crawling out of this man's hand through a hole, which was actually thought of by Salvador Dali, which is crazy, and the creation of German expressionism through movies like Nosferatu, which relied so heavily on these angled, trippy, for lack of a better word, sets that would have these distorted doors and distorted buildings in the background that would just overall create this sense of eerie unease and work perfectly towards creating a horror type feel. And during all this time, the introduction of sound within movies was being very effective too, with The Jazz Singer. Of course, if you were to watch that today, it'd be a little less tasteful with the man going in all blackface and everything. But The Jazz Singer was revolutionary. Made in 1927. It was the first time that audio was ever introduced in a film. And it just helped the medium so much. Later in 1929, the Oscars were made, so America was able to fully appreciate what movies were and that they should be honored as an art form. And then finally, the introduction of the Technicolor way of introducing colors into movies was made through Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz. Both of those movies were able to strike beauty in the eyes of the audience, whether it be the first time you see Emerald City or Oz in general, or the burning down of that house in the middle of Savannah, or the true effects of Spanish influenza shown by Gone with the Wind's powerful images. It's truly incredible what they were able to do with early Technicolor. And now that all these early pieces were introduced, editing, montaging, sound, color, and the effects were able to be shown through wide audiences that were eating this like candy, revolutionary filmmaking could really start to be done. During the 30s, classics such as On the Western Front, which was about French line during World War One, City Lights, which is a Charlie Chaplin classic and truly a great movie, M, which is deeply disturbing movie about a child murderer, and King Kong. Even Snow White came around and all this animation. These were complex stories about war, love, murder, psychology, and giant gorillas. They were all truly impressive. One can see with movies like King Kong and Modern Times that early special effects were being used in groundbreaking ways. I mean, hell, in The Gold Rush, a Charlie Chaplin movie made in 1925, it had him running around a spinning house, rotating 360 degrees constantly. This is the beginning of one of the most complicated and dense art forms in the modern world. But it wasn't until the 1940s when this fact started to truly be respected.